9:06. So why don't we start? Take the share off with all that stuff. Now I can see you all, or reading people's names. Here we go. Well, welcome to our second weekly office hours. Hope everything has been going well for all of you. Working at home. You want at the end of the meeting we can talk a little bit more about everybody's specific experiences, any recommendations you have for working as we go along. Want to have a lot of, there's plenty of time for people to ask questions yourselves, and we'll try to come up with answers or take them back for consideration. One of the things that we were happy about this week is we did get some guidance out on kind of wayside cleanup operations during this time and how we'd go about that. So let me bring that up on the screen and we can just go through it quickly and point out some of the highlights as soon as I find my sharing screen thing again. There it is. Okay, so can you all see that? Policy, letterhead?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there's nothing, I don't think there's anything too surprising here. We've talked about kind of the concepts that are in this last week. The wayside cleanup is continuing its operations. Our staff are working from home, particularly emergency response staff are doing what they normally do, as safely as possible and taking appropriate social distancing, concerns and wearing masks and all of that. One of the things that we did want to highlight here is that the key to the wayside cleanup program is telling us about the releases as you find out about them and as is required in the regulations, so that appropriate steps can be taken if necessary. And we are focusing on time critical actions at this point. We want to make sure that any imminent hazards are in fact addressed as quickly as is appropriate. But recognizing that there are some things which would not suffer and not create different risks if they were to be put off for some period of time until this emergency subsides. So what this guidance is trying to get at is how to differentiate between the things that need to be done now and those things that can be put off, and giving some comfort that, should things be put off, then we understand that it's part of the emergency protocols and that people will not be penalized for a conscious decision to defer routine work until it's safer to do that. But the key in all of this is letting us know about it, whether it's the required release notifications that still should be coming in, or if there are things that you feel is appropriate to be delayed, to fill out the notice of delay form and send it in so that everything is clear about what will continue and what will not continue. And if there are any questions, if there are gray areas, and there are certainly likely to be gray areas in all of this, where there's some risk balancing that's going on, then we encourage you to contact the DEP staff and have that conversation about whether something, the immediate risks are high enough to warrant going out and, while taking necessary precautions, address those risks now versus delaying. So all of this, a lot of these points in the guidance get to that. The release notifications, kind of what we expect for IRAs. The staff are reviewing the IRA plans. They're issuing the oral approvals as necessary. As you know, we don't necessarily need to issue written approvals for IRA plans. they can go presumptive approval. We wanted to be clear that that presumptive approvals are in fact still in effect if needed, if we go that way. But if you want to be very clear, you should email, let people know. Again, communication is the key to all of this. Let people know the things that are coming in to make sure they're appropriately reviewed. We've come up with the other term, routine submittals for anything that's not time critical. And those are in the realm of things that would should be considered to be deferred if the work at the site is not necessary. If you don't have to go out doing sampling, routine monitoring, and sending in those reports, then you should consider deferring it until it's safer for your staff to do that kind of field work and to come into contact with other people. The active remedial systems. So if you have air or surface water discharges, the question came up whether there should be routine monitoring of those. And the cut that we made is with these discharges, if something goes awry and there's a potential for an imminent hazard as a result of those discharges, then monitoring should continue. If not, if the discharges at levels which would not pose or unlikely to pose an imminent hazard, then the monitoring may be deferred. So that's another thing that you may, and if there's a gray area there, certainly call the regional staff. Similar with the APIMs, the active exposure pathway mitigation measures for vapor intrusion and drinking water, should continue operating during this time period. And again, if there's a question of if there's routine monitoring involved, we would put more emphasis on the monitoring that is there for systems addressing imminent hazards versus those systems that would not pose an imminent hazard. It's a balance of kind of how much effort, how much personal exposure to COVID is reasonable if there's no imminent hazard. A lot of construction projects are being shut down, certainly in Boston and across the state. If the construction is in an area that's also a 21E site, care and thought should be put into how to button that up so that it doesn't pose a risk during the time period while construction is not happening and there may not be people on site for security. And basically, if you have any questions, if there's a gray area, if this guidance doesn't cover something, give us a call or send general questions to bwsc.information@mass.gov, and we'll try to get the responses out to you. So I'm going to switch to another window. I
have a question.
Sure.
I have a RAM status due next month for a project that was shut down because of construction. So we haven't done anything out there for what was proposed under the RAM. Is it better in that case to submit a RAM status report that says we didn't do anything and this is why, or just do the notice of delay? It's a 120-day status.
Well, I would throw this open to some of the regional staff. I think either way could work. But in terms of submitting a report, it's submitting something to DEP one way or another. So it may be more straightforward to submit the RAM status report, indicating kind of why no work was done and what you plan to do in the future once you get back on site. But so any of our regional staff, would that be appropriate?
Hi, this is Joanne Fagan. Good morning. I personally think that the RAM status report is a better option if you can in fact, prepare that and submit it. I think the notices of delay are more appropriate when you can't upload or finish a phase 2 report, for instance, or comprehensive response actions. Then I think the notice of delay is more appropriate. But I think a RAM status report, if you're able to prepare that and upload it, it does provide the necessary information indicating that the project is delayed.
Yeah, either way, it's letting DEP know that it's being delayed and here are the reasons why. And I think either one will work, but the RAM status report is a good vehicle for doing that. Any other questions? There we go, that's why. So I'm going to go back to sharing a screen now that I've found it. Oh, no, that one. There we go. So you should be seeing DEP's website. Oops. I have too many screens and they don't work correctly. Okay, going back here. So this is MassDEP's website. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. So you may have noticed we've added, there are so many banners and so many lines across, it's pushing the actual website down. But at the top, there's a link to the overall Mass State Government COVID-19 webpage, which is the Uber overall, if you have any questions, go there really. And that's moderated mostly by the Department of Public Health. Really good resource. But down below, underneath the mass.gov banner, you'll see a yellow line, see MassDEP's COVID-19. So what we've done there is try to consolidate all of all of MassDEP's guidance, and it has drinking water, wastewater, hazardous waste management, SRF, waste recycling, waste site cleanup, waterways, wetlands, and all of that. So when in doubt, you can look there for any questions related to MassDEP, and the waste site cleanup operations will be there. Fact sheet. As we develop additional Q&As to address questions like the one that we just had, we'll post them here as well. That's that. So I'll open it up. Anything else we'd like to address? Any questions? You're all very quiet this morning. I'm taking that as a good sign. Oh, wait a second.
Paul, it looks like there's a couple of questions in the chat box.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking. I'm seeing in the group chat a yes. I think that was a question to whether you're seeing it or not. And then something from Matt Hackman. In the middle of my daily walk at City Park in Warwick, at beach of Narragansett Bay, at Park Beach of Narragansett Bay. I'm not sure that's a question as much as Matt is maybe making us jealous by telling us he's on the beach, and while I'm sitting in a parking garage.
You can actually see Matt walking right now if you look at him.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
Too many screens. Too many. Oh, there he is. Oh, Matt. There he is. Okay. Okay, you are making me jealous. I tried going outside yesterday with for a meeting, and it didn't work out very well. So, I mean,
well, we're lucky because when they closed the parking for the parks, if you can walk to the park, you can go, but you can't park. So it's really good. Not many people. Social distancing.
Yep. That's the same rule that appears to be applying in Massachusetts. Much to my chagrin, since I'm close, but not that close to the beaches. But the parks and the beaches are still open. No parking at the beaches, but and DCR, if you're following their Twitter feed, I think they have been doing a great job in, let me take you and spotlight you. I'm not sure I can do that.
Don't.
There we go. They've been doing a great job directing.
Let's take me off.
I think I tried to. Did I? Cancel the spotlight video. There we go. You're canceled, Matt. Like I said, I'm learning all of this, how to play with this. They're doing a great job redirecting people from the very popular parks to the lesser known parks to try to spread people out. So their tweets, if you don't follow them, is well worth following. Any other questions?
Hi,
Comments?
this is Wendy.
Hey, Wendy.
Hi, didn't know if you
Wendy
could hear me.
Wendy Rundle, that would be.
Wendy Rundle from the LSPA. A question that we're getting, and I feel like I kind of hate asking it, but a question that we're getting a lot from members, especially in committees, as people are talking about planning their projects, they're curious about a general new timeline for the 2019 amendments. I think people are thinking that obviously, you know, they'll try to time some things more advantageously if the schedule has slipped back, whether to wait or to go forward. I may have missed this at the wayside cleanup meeting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to give the same answer I gave maybe last week or maybe at the advisory committee meeting.
Okay.
Hopefully it's the same. Which is we are still working to complete the guidance, and Liz had gone over some of the questions and approaches that we were taking, not guidance, the regulations.
Right.
And during the advisory committee meeting. So at some point in the near future, we will have a final version that is kind of ready to go. And I would encourage you to go in and kind of go back to that video if you don't remember, or if other people don't weren't there and haven't seen it yet. But that's kind of as far as we can take it. So I could say that the DEP staff might be comfortable with a version of it in, let's say, you know, another 4 weeks.
Okay.
That's a hypothetical number. Liz, don't get mad at me.
Uh-huh.
But given that, it then goes to our Office of General Counsel and the Commissioner's Office and the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs and elsewhere for review before it can be issued as final. And I can tell you right now that, you know, they're busy doing other things.
Yeah, got it.
We are trying, you know, as this does become more routine. You know, I've already seen indications of kind of the senior staff beginning to wrap their minds around issues that are not COVID related. But the amount of time that is taken up, certainly, you know, with us in Wayside Cleanup, you know, dealing with questions, how do we carry on our daily business under these circumstances? If it takes a lot of our time thinking about that and answering those questions, you can imagine that the people that are more senior to us spend most of their time doing that right now.
Right.
So it is a competition for mental bandwidth and just the amount of time in a day. And I expect, you know, as this goes on, one, there may be more time and more interest in addressing non-COVID things that are not emergencies.
Right.
And that may open up some space for the regs to move forward. And as the emergency dissipates, I'm not sure what I'm not sure what the end game for all of this is, so I'm not sure what word I should use. But as we return more to normal at some point in the future, and, you know, let's say July, everybody might be, let's say we're back in work in July, then if we start the reg review process, then I wouldn't expect it to be final, go at final until September. And then there's always the question of the actual implementation date, which, as you know, wayside cleanup typically gives some time after that before the regs go into effect.
Great.
So taking that all into account, Liz, if I said that most of the pieces probably would not be in effect until late fall, would that be unreasonable? It's not a promise, one way or another.
That's the same answer I gave someone yesterday, so that's a good sign, Paul. Also, Wendy, I don't know if you're aware, but one of the things we did talk about at the advisory committee meeting when we went over some of our final decisions on things was to delay the effective date from the publication date by 4 months.
Yep. Yeah, very helpful. Thank you. Thank you all. We can now have this standardized answer. And thank you also for the fact sheet yesterday at our tech practices meeting. That served to be a really valuable resource immediately. So that was great. Thank you. And extremely well done. Very much appreciated.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I had my,
Okay.
not
Yep.
checking hands up.
Oh, sorry. It doesn't automatically come up. Okay, Susan Chapnick.
I was waiting patiently. I was trying not to talk over people because it's hard when you can unmute yourself. This is just a general observation. It has nothing to do exactly with Bureau of Wayside Cleanup, but I think it might be helpful for all the people on the phone. We had a Zoom meeting of the Conservation Commission in the town of Arlington last Tuesday night. It was Zoom bombed. It was Zoom bombed by 50 different individuals speaking obscenities, posting obscenity, hate speech. It was horrendous. It happened about an hour and 15 minutes into our meeting. So we got a little lax. Instead of the host of the meeting muting everybody, and you have to raise your hand all the time, your virtual hand, to get unmuted. We did what you're doing here now, which is allowing all the participants to mute or unmute themselves. Since we had that, these people could come in and do this. It was really difficult to kick them all out because it was so quick. We ended up having to cancel the meeting. We reported it to the FBI and the police, who confiscated the computer from our agent who was the host, and they're investigating it. And I put this out as a warning. There's a lot of information out there about Zoom bombing happening to public schools, to public meetings. The Conservation Commission is extremely vulnerable in different towns because we're required to have open meetings. We're required to publish links. We're figuring out how to do that carefully by having waiting rooms, by having 2 hosts, etc. But we can't have private meetings due to open meeting law. Just a warning to everybody. It was horrendous. It was really, really upsetting to all of us. And we're putting an SOP in place in the town of Arlington to handle this. As we all may know, Zoom was not set up as a public platform. Really set up to have passwords and to invite participants. So it's very challenging to do it as a public forum. So I'm just putting that out there for people. And if anybody wants to contact me or find out what we're doing to safeguard that and still have public participation, you're welcome to.
Yeah, once you have the SOP, I would love to see a copy of it. I think, yeah, I mean, like these meetings and the advisory committee meetings, are like Conservation Commission meetings, public, and we do want to encourage people attending. I think I will in the future kind of mute people and be more kind of more strict about it, I guess, and we'll have to watch the raising hands a little bit more. So, you know, as we try to figure out how to do this, I mean, one option for us would be to like go back to the YouTube streaming, for example, and do the chat part as well, like have somebody manning the chat and dealing with that. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, there are some options, but you know, it's hard because the best part about the advisory committee meetings and these is the back and forth, the interaction, which YouTube is more one-way delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just in terms of the chat function was also abused. We had over 100 chats that were inappropriate. So we're actually turning that off, unfortunately. We're not allowing that at our meetings, the chat function at all. But I will send you the SOP when we get it finalized.
Thanks, Susan. Anybody else have any observations or comments about kind of work in the COVID-19 world? How is site work going? Are people out in the field? Is work other than emergency imminent hazard work still being done in some locations? I did notice that let's see if I can bring this up. I was looking to see kind of what the level of activity was in recently, and I want to share another screen. So this was in the Northeast region since Monday, the amount of submittals that are coming in through EDEP. So there is work still going on out there, which is good to see. You know, including a lot of bills of lading. So probably a lot of construction, a lot of excavation. So we are still seeing a lot of information coming into us. People are out there doing work. Anything else? Questions, comments? No? Shall we call it done? Okay. Good seeing you guys or hearing you. And come back again next week. And we'll see if there's anything else. Continue to send any questions to bwsc.information@mass.gov. Yes?
No, I just said thanks, Pa.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank you, Paul. Bye.
Bye.